Among the biblical scholars, they prefer the name the fourth gospel. Mostly the biblical scholars prefer the name the fourth gospel. And in the introductory part, I would like to deal with the following points, but in a very short way, not in a detail, okay? Because of the shortage of time, okay?
Yes, sister.
The first composition of the fourth gospel, that means we'll be discussing where was it compiled and when was it compiled and who is the author of the gospel. These 3 points we'll be discussing, okay?
Yes, sister.
Then the second one, relationship to the synoptics. Although the 4 gospels speaking about the earthly life of Jesus, the 4th gospel does so in a very different way compared to the synoptic gospel. That means 90% of Johannine material is different from the synoptics. Okay, 90%. Because then the third point, 7 characteristics I'll be explaining. Then the formation of the gospel, purpose of the gospel, the structure of the gospel. These are the introductory part. Okay? The first one, composition of the gospel. Where was the 4th gospel composed? Where was it composed? Do you have any idea? Where was? No? Actually, among the scholars also. And the strongest claim is for Ephesus. Because it is known as Ephesian gospel. Also known as Ephesian gospel. And strongest claim, there are other 2 places, but the strongest claim is for Ephesus. I'm not explaining other places and all because some scholars suggest Antioch and some others suggest Palestine, but the strongest claim is for Ephesus in Asia. Ephesus in Asia. And we have the testimonies of Irenaeus. Who is Irenaeus? Father of the church. He was the Bishop of Lyons. He died circa 180. Circa 180 means this means what? A Latin word, circa. That means around. It's exact year or date is not sure. So that is like circa. Latin word circa. Around 180 AD. And his Irenaeus and Polycarp, their testimony is that this written in Ephesus in Asia. Okay, that's enough. Then the next one, when was it compiled? When was? Because I am going fast. That is why there was a lot of explanation for the where, the place. But because for us most important is going beginning chapter 1, chapter 2, straight into the gospel. Okay. So introduction I am making very short. So then when was it compiled? Among the scholars, there are a lot of theories regarding of how they find out the time. But now I am telling around towards the end of 1st century. Towards the end of 1st century, it was compiled towards the end of 1st century. And according to some scholars, between AD 80 and 100. 80 and 100, between 80 and 100 AD. Otherwise we can say towards the end of 1st century. That's enough, okay? For this conclusion, there are a lot of things, but for the time being, I am not explaining, okay? Then third one, who is the author? Who is the author? That also a long controversial issue. And uncertainty about the author of the 4th gospel. Still, the contemporary view, there is lot of uncertainty about the authorship of the fourth gospel. That is why the scholars prefer the term fourth gospel instead of, but we know according to Schnackenburg and Raymond Brown, these are the two scholars, two authority behind the fourth gospel. Raymond Brown Edmund Brown, an American scholar. He's an authority behind the fourth gospel. Then another one, Schnackenburg, Rudolf Schnackenburg, a German scholar. Schnackenburg is a German scholar. According to them, we are speaking. Who is the author?
John himself?
A beloved disciple. From the gospel, we can conclude that it is written by beloved disciple. And who is this beloved disciple? Maybe the actual author is an evangelist, is a disciple to this beloved disciple. Okay? There are a lot of confusions maybe you have in your mind. But because we know after the Pentecost event, the disciples were going around to preach the good news, preach the gospel, and they found communities. Wherever they preached, they found communities. And John, the beloved disciple, preached. And from the gospel, we cannot see any name, any specific name called John. The author is not mentioned. Instead, he is using a word, the beloved disciple or the disciple whom Jesus loved. He was using. Why?
Because at the Last Supper, he gave his words and he asked who will betray.
Chapter 13, 23. Okay. Last, the disciple whom Jesus loved asked Jesus. It's mentioned. Chapter 1 also. Then chapter 20 also. Different places it is mentioned the disciple whom Jesus loved. And the beloved disciple. So the authority behind the fourth gospel is beloved disciple. Who is the beloved disciple? And traditionally it is understood as John, one of the disciples of Jesus. That is a traditional understanding. Because why then John is calling himself beloved disciple?
He must be latest in the group. And Jesus loved him most because he was thinking all the time.
Okay. You can give explanation like this. Okay, then.
He takes him on God's love.
Okay.
He was at the cross and
He was
he was at the cross.
Last
Last Supper. So it is a subjective experience of the disciple. This is subjective. Because Jesus must have loved all. Okay? This is personal experience. Okay? And according to traditional understanding, that is why, because he was so much possessed by the love of Jesus. And he is calling himself as the beloved whom Jesus loved. The disciple whom Jesus loved, or the beloved disciple. Traditional understanding. And it was the personal experience of the disciple. And that is why, according to traditional understanding, he never married. He remained unmarried. Okay? So because of the experience of love, he was so much possessed by the love of Jesus. So that actually there is the meaning of celibacy also. There is the meaning of celibacy. He was filled with the love of Jesus. So he never married again. So he called himself as the beloved disciple.
Even he was given the responsibility to his mother in the end.
At the end, at the foot of the cross, he was entrusted to Mother Mary. Okay. So there is a lot of discussions here, but I am stopping. Okay, because we go forward. So a traditional understanding is that this John, the disciple, the brother of Andrew.
James.
Brother of James. Okay.
Son of Zebedee.
Okay. Son of Zebedee. Okay, thank you. Then the next point. The most contemporary view is that it is anyway this gospel is originated in the Johannine school. Johannine. That we understood, Johannine community. The beloved disciple must have preached, and he, because of his preaching, the community originated. Johannine community originated. And later, because when we discuss the formation of the gospel, you will understand it. There are actually 5 stages for the formation of the fourth gospel. So gradually, because of the preaching of the beloved disciple, started the Johannine community and he preached everything he heard from Jesus. Later there was, during the composition or during the formation, there was someone else, maybe secretary or another person, disciple to this beloved disciple might have written the gospel. Okay, is this clear? Then relationship to the synoptics. Relationship to the synoptics. And synoptic gospels means what? Synoptic gospel, because now you finished. And synoptic gospels means what? Synoptic. Maybe what comes in your mind? The three gospels. The name?
Matthew, Mark and Luke.
Matthew, Mark and Luke. And why are they called synoptics?
What verses are performed?
Yeah, same. They present Jesus in a similar way. I think what is correct. They present Jesus in a similar way. But John is presenting Jesus in a different way. That the fourth gospel is different from the synoptics. 90% of the material in John is unparalleled to Matthew, Mark and Luke. And the difference can be noted in different ways. The difference in 3 ways actually I am presenting here. See, yeah, the difference can be noted in 3 ways. First of all, the materials unique to John. Got the point? The difference can be noticed in 3 different ways. The materials unique to John. And secondly, the materials absent from John. And thirdly, materials notably different in John from synoptics. Okay? Got it? Because some materials are unique in the gospel. That is not shared by other gospels. Okay, it is clear?
Yes.
Some materials are unique to the gospel. Okay? Then some materials are absent in John when compared to the synoptics. Most of the materials, because when you use, you can find it out by yourself. Unique material. What are the unique materials? Spell out something. Cana miracle. Then Nicodemus incident, chapter 3. Then chapter 4, Samaritan woman story is absent in other gospels. So in each chapter you will see the difference. Okay? Then some are absent because the birth of Jesus or the genealogy is absent. Then what else?
Baptism of Saint John.
Prologue is unique way. Parables are absent. Then exorcism. No exorcisms in the Gospel of John. Let's say something.
Beatitudes are absent.
No transfiguration, no there. But 2 beatitudes are there in the Gospel of John. You can find out by yourself. 2 beatitudes, but not in a serial form. The Matthew's Gospel according is in serial form. Okay, beatitude. But in John's Gospel there are 2 beatitudes, but not in serial form. 2 places you can see that.
Teaching our Father is not there in John.
Okay, so many some materials are absent in John when compared to the synoptics. Then thirdly, both synoptics and John are presenting certain materials, but John is presenting totally different way. So some materials are same, they are presenting certain things, same things, but John is presenting in a totally different way. We will see that one also. Okay. So this is relationship to the synoptics. Okay. This clear?
Yes.
Should I repeat?
No.
No.
Okay. Then next one.
Characteristics of the gospel.
Then next one. Characteristics of the gospel. Okay. Characteristics of the gospel. First of all, it begins with a hymnic prologue. In English Bible, it is in a prose form, no? But actually, in original Greek, it is a poem. First 18 verses are a poem. In the English Bible, it is a prose form. Okay? Originally, it is a hymn. So, John began his gospel with a hymnic prologue. Okay? Then secondly, numerous references to the mysterious figure. Which is that mysterious figure? Beloved disciple. Numerous references are there in the gospel to the mysterious figure, the beloved disciple. Then thirdly, there are abundant symbolism. Lot of symbolisms are used by the author. Symbols. Symbolisms are there. Then we see in the gospel the motive of misunderstanding. An example, Jesus talking with chapter 2 we can see, and again chapter 3 Jesus talking, dialogue with Nicodemus. There Jesus is using that technique. It is actually a literary technique used in the gospel, misunderstanding. A literary technique used in the gospel. Example, this in the dialogue, when a person has to born again. Actually, the Greek word is anothen. Jesus actually meant born from above. And actually, that anothen, that Greek word has two meanings: again or from above. Anothen means again or from above. Actually, what Jesus meant. Above, born from above. But Nicodemus understood it as born again. So he was asking the blunder question, how can a grown up man re-enter into the womb of mother? So because there is a technique of misunderstanding. So this technique is used to create interest in the readers. We will be laughing, especially that those readers of the time, because for them, Nicodemus is a great man, great rabbi. Okay, then he is asking the blunder. So in order to such a way we will see other places also this technique of misunderstanding. Okay. Then next one, this gospel is Christocentric. The gospel is Christocentric because the person Jesus is very important, and that is why he is using a lot of instead of miracle he is using the word signs. Why signs? Because signs have a it's coming again another Christos another characteristics next one. That's what I finished. Yeah. No. Christocentric. Let's finish that. There are some, maybe in between I missed something, some points and I explain. The sixth one, I thought the gospel is Christocentric, but because every word in the gospel is pointing to Jesus. Every word, every sign, every miracle in the gospel is pointing to the person of Jesus. And the sixth one, this one, frequent expressions found in the synoptics such as Sadducees, scribes, demons, tax collectors, which are absent in the four gospels. Okay? Got it? The afflicted expression is found in the synoptic gospels such as Sadducees, scribes, demons, tax collectors, which are added in the fourth gospel. Then seventh one, the gospel emphasizes the role of Holy Spirit. The gospel emphasizes the role of the Spirit, and which is referred distinctly as Paraclete. Paraclete. When it comes the chapters, especially chapters 14, 15, 16, I will explain there more. Okay? The meaning of Paraclete. Okay? I will explain. If I forgot, you can ask. Then the next one, the gospel refers miracles as signs. The gospel refers miracles as signs. Why? Because signs have a deeper theological meaning than miracles. Signs have a deeper theological meaning than the miracles. So, actually through signs, the author is proclaiming Jesus as, look at who Jesus is. Through every sign, the author is asking the reader, look at who Jesus is. So, he is calling our attention totally to the person of Jesus. He is calling our attention completely to the person of Jesus. Then, John, the gospel presents crucifixion as exaltation. Crucifixion as exaltation. And again, another important one is this gospel typically presents or identifies Jews as opponents to Jesus. Jewish people are real opponents to Jesus. Should I repeat? Anytime you can stop me and ask me if you have any doubt.
Then the line passes the gospel presents crucifixion as
Jewish people, no? Jewish
Crucifixion as exaltation.
Exaltation. Crucifixion as exaltation. It is important in the gospel because here he is using the word glorification, exaltation, glorification of Jesus. So, passion, death and resurrection together called glorification of Jesus. Passion, death and resurrection together called glorification of Jesus. That is why John is using a special terminology in chapter 8. When the Son of Man is being lifted up, the terminology lifted up, that means crucifixion is exaltation. In 3 places John is using that terminology, lifting up, being lifted up. Chapter 8, chapter 12, before that one more chapter, I think chapter 3. Chapter 3, 14, 8:28, then 12:32, 24. So 3 times that he will be lifted up. 3:14, 8:28, 12:32. Oh no, 32. No, 34. 12. Chapter 3.
3:14.
3:14, 8:28, then 12, 32 to 34, I think. Just to check there. That is okay, that's enough there. 32. So in 3 places, John is using the terminology, he is lifted up. Actually, in the synoptic gospels we see the passion predictions, okay? Especially in the gospel of Mark, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, 8:31 onwards, then chapter 9:32 onwards, then again chapter 10:32 onwards. We will see 3 places, the passion predictions, okay? And the gospel of John, no passion predictions. Instead, he is using this vocabulary, lifted up. Okay. This clear?
Yes.
John is never using the passion predictions. Instead, he is saying the Son of Man will be lifted up. he is lifted up. That terminology is using. And so for him, for John, crucifixion or this passion, Jesus is not a weak fellow suffering, no, but he is willingly undergoing the suffering, and in the passion scenes we will be seeing the royal nature of Jesus. If there is time, I will explain there. Chapter 18 and 19. The royal character is revealing through the passion scenes of Jesus. Okay? It's very interesting when you study the passion scenes in the Gospel of John. Then another characteristic, John emphasizes love for one another as the greatest new commandment of Jesus. Love for one another as the great new commandment of Jesus. And this is a distinctive mark of his followers. Love one another. Love for one another is the great new commandment, and also it is the distinctive mark of his followers. Chapter 13, 34 and 35. Another important thing is synopsis. Where is the ministry is concentrated in synoptic gospel? Jesus' ministry location of Jesus' ministry. Location of Jesus' ministry according to synoptic gospel.
Jerusalem.
Galilee. See, there is a difference. You have just studied the journey. Jesus is on the way and teaching on the way. You might have anything like it?
Yes, yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. It is easy for you to remember. I am not expert in drawing pictures, then also I am trying to draw.
Is here, sister?
Pardon?
There is a map.
Yeah. When we study gospel, it will be nice keeping in your mind. Okay? And Jesus' time, Palestine was divided into three. Divided into three. Then this is Galilee. So don't forget it, okay? This is Galilee and here is Nazareth. Here is Cana, okay? And this is what is it? Galilee. Sea of Galilee, okay? Sea of Galilee, like a mango shape.
Further up that side.
Another name, there are actually three names for this sea. Tiberius. Then another one, Gennesaret. Three names are there for this sea of Galilee, Tiberius Lake, then Gennesaret. Okay? These three names are used in the Gospels. Okay? Then what is it? Jordan. River Jordan. And this one? Dead Sea. And this place. So Jesus' time, Palestine is divided into three. This is Galilee, and here Samaria. This one? Judah. And here is Jerusalem. Here is Jerusalem. Okay?
Now is Bethlehem.
Close to Bethlehem.
And
here.
below the Bethany.
See? This one, Galilee, Samaria and Judah. And where was his birth? Because Jesus
Made a journey.
Why would them? Nazareth.
Nazareth. Okay? Let's call it Nazareth, no? He is brought up here, Nazareth. Okay?
Yeah.
Then, according to the synoptics, the theological purpose, only once Jesus is entering up to Jerusalem, only once. And there he faced his passion, death, and resurrection. Okay? So Jesus is making only only one journey up to Jerusalem. This you have to keep in mind according to Synoptic Gospel for their theological purpose. Okay? And Luke chapter 9:51. The Professor might have told you. Luke chapter 9:51. Jesus set his face towards Jerusalem, and although the prophets they frightened, in a very solemn way, that journey described there in chapter 9:51 of Luke. Then he started his journey from here, and he is making his journey, and he was passing through Samaria. Then finally in chapter 18 he reached Gospel of Mark. Chapter 18 he reached in Jerusalem, and the solemn entry. Then later the solemn entry. Okay? Solemn entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. That is so the same way Matthew and Mark. The Luke and travel narrative is very important. Okay, remember Luke and travel narrative, because Jesus is teaching his disciples many things on the way. On the way he was teaching his disciples. So Jesus was making a solemn journey towards Jerusalem. Okay? Then there is the solemn entry, and then according to the Synoptic Gospels, solemn entry. Together with that, Jesus is cleansing the Jerusalem temple. Okay? That's a difference. But according to John, Jesus going, the second chapter itself, Jesus in Jerusalem. Then third chapter, so going and coming back. Understood? For John, so Jesus' public ministry. I forgot one point I in between. Now the characteristics over. Okay? Now we were discussing the materials notably different in John from Synoptics. I thought certain materials what the Gospels are presenting. I thought of skipping that one, but it is important. Remember? Materials notably different in John from Synoptics. So I think I have to explain a little bit. Okay? This is this one. The difference. Okay, understood? Synoptics, there is only one solemn journey up to Jerusalem. Okay? And there Jesus facing his passion death. Okay? But according to John, this many times Jesus going and coming back. Going to Jerusalem and then coming back. Understood it? And there, that's the different materials, not only different. Understood? One thing, this one. Okay? Then, when according to synoptics, what is the immediate cause, approximate reason for the death of Jesus? What is the approximate reason for the death of Jesus? According to the synoptics.
To save the world, breaking the salvation
Calling people to God.
Yeah, that's the main thing for all the four Gospels. He is making himself equal to God. What is actually act according to Synoptic Gospels? All every Gospel is presenting that the immediate cause or approximate. That is in John. In the Gospel of John, the raising of Lazarus is the immediate cause. But according to the Synoptics, the reason for his death, the cleansing of the temple. That is why it was this keeping at the end of public ministry. This is a solemn entry into Jerusalem, and he was cleansing the temple of Jerusalem. Okay? And because this is blasphemy for them, because Jesus is the authority of the Son. He entered the temple and he cleansed it with the authority of the Son. Only because for the Jewish people it is unbearable. Okay? For the people, Jewish people, it is unbearable.
Eatings on the Sabbath.
Before that, the immediate reason for his killing. But John, the Gospel of John, he put the cleansing of the temple chapter 2 itself. Okay? So this is not the immediate reason or approximate reason. Then why? What is the, as she said, it is the raising of the Lazarus. In chapter 11 it is mentioned. After the raising of Lazarus, they immediately gathered, Sanhedrin gathered and they condemned Jesus for death. Chapter 11 itself we see. Okay? Chapter 11 itself we see, they condemned Jesus for death. So the two differences you got? Two differences?
ministry of the temple.
Other one?
Other one is raising Lazarus.
I thought the two not only that means not only different.
The number of trips to Jerusalem.
According to synopsis, only once Jesus is entering. That is his only last week of his life is in Jerusalem. Okay, but John chapter 2 itself he is in Jerusalem. Then another thing, according to now we know traditionally how many years of public ministry.
3
But when we was that 3 years calculated from which gospel? Gospel of John. 3 times Jesus is in Jerusalem. So 3 years. Because every Jew after 30 years of what has to come to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover. For the feast. So from the Gospel of John we can calculate that 3 times Jesus entering Jesus participating the feast of Passover in the Gospel of John. 3 times Jesus in Jerusalem for the feast of Passover. But according to Synoptic Gospel, only once. That means only 1 year. His public ministry according to Synoptics only 1 year. But from the Gospel of John it is calculated that 3 years of public ministry. Okay, this clear?
2 years once you have to come back.
Every Jew after 12
After
years.
2 years, 3 times he comes back. He goes up.
Public ministry.
3 years.
Yes, because public ministry it is mentioned, other things is not mentioned. Public during his public ministry, 3 times Jesus came. That means 3 years of public ministry. Before that also Jesus might have come. Okay, but it is not mentioned. The grown-up Jesus is mentioned in the gospel. And 30 years. Remember the gospel of Luke. Gospel of Luke it is mentioned. Grown-up Jesus only once according to Synoptic Gospels. Okay. That is, but in John, Gospel of John, 3 times we see the Jesus in Jerusalem for the Passover. Then another the difference I am telling. 2 differences you might have noticed. Okay. Then Jesus' ministry overlaps with that of John the Baptist. See, that means the Gospel of John, Jesus and John the Baptist's ministry overlaps. But according to Synoptic, only after the arrest of John the Baptist, Jesus entered for public ministry. Understood? Mark chapter 1. 1:14 it is mentioned, the arrest of John the Baptist is mentioned, and 1:15 the solemn announcement of Jesus. Okay? Understood?
Yeah.
So only after the arrest of Jesus began arrest of John the Baptist, Jesus began his public ministry. But in the Gospel of John, Jesus' ministry and John the Baptist's ministry are overlapping. Understood? Overlaps. Okay, it is clear?
Yes,
So far okay?
Yes, yep.
I am going fast. What do you feel? You are following me? Okay. Pardon? This is chapter 1. Jesus and John the Baptist are there. Chapter 3 you see John the Baptist giving baptism, they are mentioned. And John the Baptist chapter 3 that was the end. There is mentioned. 3:22 onwards, chapter 3:22 onwards, the ministry of John the Baptist is mentioned there.
Simultaneous, no?
Yeah. So that overlapping means simultaneous. That's the way also said. Both are doing their ministry. Not only but synoptics present only after the arrest of John the Baptist
Jesus begins his
ministry. Okay? Clear? Then call of the disciples. Calling of the disciples. Chapter 1 of Mark. Chapter 1, 16 to 20. The first disciples, now calling of the first disciples. In John's Gospel, what is the speciality? The speciality in the Gospel of John. Here. Special 2 names included. Philip and Nathanael. 2 special names. That is not seen in the
Synoptics.
Synoptic Gospel. That 2 names are not found in the Synoptic Gospels. Then what else? Anointing at Bethany by Mary, sister of Martha and Lazarus. Specifically mentioned who is anointing Jesus. But in Synoptic Gospels, a sinful woman like that differently placed. Then another important things notably different. Jesus dies on the day before the Passover. Understood? Jesus, the death of Jesus on the day before the Passover. Why? John is presenting Jesus as the Passover lamb. That is why John the Baptist introducing Jesus in chapter 1. The Lamb of God. Lamb of God. Chapter 1:28. No? So he is the lamb, Paschal lamb. So his death at this exact time when the Passover lambs were killed in Jerusalem chamber. That is why the Jews did not enter the headquarters of Pilate because they haven't eaten the Passover. Understood?
Right.
Chapter 18 it is mentioned the Jewish, the authorities, they are responsible for the death of Jesus. They did not enter the headquarters of Pilate because they haven't eaten, they had not eaten the Passover meal. That means Jesus' death before the Passover at the exact time when the Passover lambs were killed in the Jerusalem children. For their Passover food, they were killing the Passover lamb. That exact time Jesus' death also died according to John. Because Jesus is a Passover lamb. The crucifixion story contains 3 unique scenes that we see when we come to the passion narratives, if there is that. Okay? Now, I finished. What else?
Formation of the gospel.
See now, I finished. Relation to synoptics and characteristics of the gospel. Now, formation of the gospel. Formation of the gospel. Actually, there are 2 theories regarding the formation of the gospel.
5 more minutes are
5 more. So we will bring the bell?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can finish with that time. The formation of the gospel. See, formation of the gospel. Actually, there are 2 theories regarding the formation of the gospel. First one is source theories of composition. Source theories of, that is the first theory. And second one, developmental theories of composition. Source theories of composition and developmental theories of composition. Now, the source theories are this is not a valid theory, source theory, because according to the this is proposed by Bultmann. According to him, there are 3 sources for the composition of gospel, but it is not a valid one. So you will not only just mention source theory. That is not a valid one. It is not validly accepted by the scholars. Okay. Now, but the developmental theories of composition proposed by R.E. Brown. Remember that name?
Yes.
Contemporary scholar, contemporary Johannine scholar R.E. Brown, that means Raymond Edmund Brown. He died recently. He proposed the developmental theories of composition, and according to him, there are 5 stages for the composition of the gospel. There are 5 stages for the composition of the gospel. First one is the traditional material. Stage 1. The word is preached by Jesus. That is the traditional original material. Okay? The preaching and the words of Jesus. Okay? That is the first stage. Then the stage 2, oral stage. Beloved disciples preaching the words of Jesus. That traditional material was preached by the beloved disciple. Then the third stage, and in his preaching, especially the oral stage, he was making the material specifically in the Johannine pattern while he was preaching. He knows when famous authors by reading the material or novel or stories, we can identify who is the author. A special pattern, writing style will be there. Okay? Clear? So, while he was preaching on this in this order stage, he was making the traditional material in the Johannine pattern. Okay, this clear? Certain terms and all. Then third stage only it was written. It was written only in the third stage. Then, because at the beginning nothing was written down. Why? Because if something writing down means what? It is for whom?
The future.
Future. Thinking of the future generation, we are writing and keeping some certain things, no? So, because at first they were immediate because of the eschatology, no, imminent eschatology they were preaching. So they were not written down anything. Later only started writing down the materials. Okay, so only in the third stage. Then there was a second draft and there was the final edition. So there is inconsistencies in the gospel is very well explained because of by accepting this theory of developmental theory. Okay, because of the 5 stages of formation. This is enough. Otherwise, you will be confused tomorrow.
More 1 minute.
Okay. I got that characteristics, no? That later on misplaced, so that is right.
You are searching for it. This is here. Emphasizes.
Then finally, the purpose of the gospel. Finally, so I can finish introduction with this hour. Okay? The purpose of the gospel. Purpose. And that purpose is mentioned in chapter 20, verses 30 and 31. The purpose of the gospel is mentioned. Please read this side together. Read. Chapter 20,
20.
verses 30 and 31. And the purpose is mentioned at the end of the gospel. Why the author has written the gospel? For what?
There were many. Okay.
Maybe
Now Jesus did many signs in the presence of the disciples.
he was the Bible.
Indian women.
You want to read?
Okay. Yeah, you ask me.
Now Jesus did many signs that were suggesting his disciples.
Okay, let them read.
Want to read?
Sister,
Ask for the
the
No, no, no.
So vegetable.
1, 2, 3, come on.
Now Jesus did many other signs in his presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name.
For what he is written?
Everyone has different Bible. Everyone has different Bible.
Okay.
Ask one person.
Okay. This is not a problem. Later we will. So, for what is the purpose? By believing
Jesus is the
believing Jesus is the Messiah, Son of God, and by believing you have believing and have eternal life. Life is important. Believing in Jesus and have eternal life. So that is the purpose. Then one more thing, the structure or later I will take it. Okay. So
All
how
of that you are saying about
20 minutes.
one PowerPoint you forgot.
yeah.
Again, so back.
Yeah.